How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the weekly Old School Developer Q&A. This week I'm taking over for Mod Archie because he's lucky and on holiday, and we have 3 of the 4 Old School newbies. So on the end there we've got Mod Day, and then just next to her Mod Krista, then the veteran Ash.
You've met me.
And then Alfie.
The old new guy.
The old new guy.
Yeah.
Renewed.
Yeah. And I'm Mod Ronan.
Refurbished.
So for the first few minutes of the stream, we're going to be introducing these guys, so you guys can get a bit more familiar with them. So to start off with Alfie, because you're closest.
Yeah.
Let's go through these questions, shall we?
Yeah.
What were you doing previously before you got going on the Old School team?
Before I got on the Old School team.
This time round.
Yeah, okay. I was at my final year at uni doing stuff to do with video games art. So I was doing my dissertation and making a video game with a group of people, and that all turned out to go quite well. So
yeah,
I'm back at Old School Runescape. So
yeah. So you're now qualified to do the thing you were doing for us last year.
Yeah, pretty much. But
awesome.
Yeah.
And of course the obligatory question of what is your history with RuneScape?
My history of RuneScape.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been playing since 2001, since it came out on Classic. So I didn't really play much of RS3. I kind of stopped playing since Wilderness got removed, and then when 2007 came back, that's when I joined again. Yeah.
Lovely. What are your aspirations, Alfie?
Oh, my aspirations to become the best 3D artist in the world, and to continue my my reign as best pure in RuneScape.
And just a few quick facts, like anything, hobbies, favourite TV shows, random information about anything.
I don't really have any facts.
Nothing?
Myself, I'm not boring, but I just can't think of anything on the spot.
Best pure EU.
Best pure EU.
Perhaps it's because you devote yourself to RuneScape to the exclusion of TV shows.
Yeah.
That's a good reason.
Yeah.
Okay,
also,
so
I don't see a TV in here.
No, there isn't. Actually, exactly. That's why I don't watch TV shows. There isn't a TV.
That's fair. So, Krista, same questions for you. So, what were you doing before you got onto the Old School team?
So, when I joined Jagex, I was on the Transformers team. Started off as a content dev, then moved up to management for a while, and then decided I wanted to get back to being a dev, so I moved across to RuneScape, where I made the Nexus, and then I moved on to doing the new skill, Divination, and then I was put on the MTX team where I was for 2 years, and now I've been saved and I'm over with you guys.
So plenty of experience then, not reckon. Background with RuneScape?
I am an avid skiller, and we have weekly high scores with all the JMods, and I'm rather competitive. So if there's someone who I'm really good friends with who's getting close to me, that's it, leveling.
Where do you rank on those high scores? Out of curiosity.
I was about 50ish, I think I'm up to about 45 now.
Not bad, not bad.
So.
Can I get quite competitive in the office
sometimes?
sometimes?
Oh, seriously, yeah.
Well, I have a fact. I'm actually ranked 69 in that high school. Yeah.
Great fact.
Oh dear. And any aspirations that you want to share with the people watching?
Just make everybody like me.
That's a good aspiration. And a couple of quick facts.
Quick facts. My socks. I don't know if you can see them. Cool.
Your footwear has competition, Jonan.
Yeah,
I think it's winning though. So
I don't own any Crocs. That's one good thing. And hobbies, crafting. All sorts of crafting. So, like making geek art, all sorts of things. Wow. IRL crafting, yeah.
No, crafting IRL, good start. And Mod Day on the end there. So, what were you doing before you started in the Old School team?
I've just finished my 3rd year of university. I did a joint degree in computer science and history and philosophy of science. That's about it.
Yeah. Background with RuneScape?
I played pretty obsessively between the ages of about 11 and 14. And then my cousin failed his university exams because he played too much World of Warcraft, so my parents banned me from playing. Yeah. I recently picked it up again in the past year, and I've been really enjoying it.
Lovely. And aspirations?
Play games all my life.
That's a good aspiration.
I like that.
I think you can relate. And a couple of quick facts about yourself.
I like other games. I like League of Legends. I like Don't Starve, Pokemon, Minecraft. I like anime, and that's about it. Yep.
Lovely. So there you guys go. introductions for everyone. And we do actually have Maz in spirit here as well. So yeah, let's get into the questions. So RS Nan asks, can you update us on the Australian servers already, please?
Should we let Maz answer that one?
There's a lot of giggling going on right now. I missed it.
Just waving Maz around. Maybe you should have it back. Sorry, Maz.
So Australian servers, unfortunately we don't really have much of an update on that at this point in time. Do want to address it again, just we're not ignoring the issue, there's just no progress to speak about at this point. We're still on it, still looking to make progress, so don't worry about that. More updates when they come.
You understand there's slightly more pressing things we need the sysadmin to be focusing on just at the moment. Sorry.
Yeah. So a question from I'm Not Impressed 07. Can we prioritise adding the map feature and potentially experience drops to the main client?
Now, Mod Philip's been looking into that, because of course the 2007 engine didn't support a built-in world map. That came in 2008. But he reckons he could fairly easily port in the engine features that the game had in those days, which would let us do a built-in world map. Now, I haven't forgotten that what we actually got in 2008 was that if you pressed a button, the game would sit there for a good, 5 seconds plus, loading the map. And, I didn't like that very much. I think a lot of people didn't like that very much. So if he's going to copy that in, we might need to see what else we can do about it.
I do remember being in the wilderness, clicking the world map and then regretting it immediately when I died.
Yeah, like it was nicer to go into a dungeon where you could open the map and it would just open in a nice dungeon map.
Yeah. How important is it to know where I am?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, do you want to know where you are or be alive? Because in a minute we'll know you're in London. So, long-winded answer. Mod Philip reckons he could probably do something for us. And also, I worked on the dungeon maps back in the day. I wrote all the code for the little yellow links that showed you where shortcuts went on it and things you could click to go from one map to another. I remember how I did it too, so I can do it again if we need it.
Lovely.
And for XP drops, that's coming in a poll very soon.
Yep. Poll opening next Thursday.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
It was going to be that or loot share. Now, I know a lot of people want loot share, and I know a lot of people want XP drops. We've chosen the XP drops first. Sorry, all you loot share fans, your time will come, because I really do want to trawl through all those drop tables and plug in all the code for loot share. It would be quite informative.
Excellent. Question from Jabroni. Can you make resizable resize smaller than the size of fixed without it cutting off your screen?
The short answer is it would require engine work.
We
have an awful lot of things. Requests that require engine work. So
it is often the way when the game engine was written back in 2004, it supported all the things Andrew thought were necessary at the time. Gradually more stuff got added, more stuff. Eventually resizable mode turned up in 2008. But since all those years ago, no one thought it was going to be necessary to let content developers, change the size of the client or change the minimum size of the client. We were not given that flexibility, and Ian would have to add that to the list of many, many things you'd like him to do for us. Top of that list, I suspect, is fixing the bug with logout, but beyond that, something to let us do a zoom feature for you would be pretty high on the list. But these other things can come too.
And a question from San Malice 11. Can you add a shuffle option for RS Music?
Yes. If people want it, yes.
I keep looking at Ash when it's the content of questions when I realise that Krista's there as well.
And then Ash keeps looking at me, so it's like, I'm answering this one, okay.
This next question is something that we've addressed a number of times, but there was a thread on Reddit yesterday that got very highly voted and it's kind of become a point of discussion again. So stealing creation. Many people, including myself, would love to play this minigame in Old School and would play it with regardless of its rewards. Please seriously consider making this happen. That's from Cuddles98.
Sorry, what name did you say?
Cuddles98.
Well, with a name like that. Guess we've got to answer that one. Scene creation. We'd have to recreate it, of course, because we can't just port the thing over from the other game's code base. There's just far too many differences to make it even safe.
And it's a big job.
Yeah, not a small job at all. And we'd have to fix a few things that didn't get done right the first time, like the ability to, pickpocket JMods. We don't need that, do we, boys and girls? So, because you don't want to then come and steal your potato unexpectedly.
No, I like to know where my potato is.
Yeah, just because we could get another one. So yeah, we could spend a very long time recreating that. Not just the code, but the graphics. A typical minigame will have hundreds of graphics for all the custom scenery in there, and items and animations and NPCs. I think you recreated the corp, and there's about 9 models you had to make for that.
Yeah,
Took
those
how long?
didn't take that long. The models didn't. It was just the corp that took quite a long while. The animations and stuff.
Okay.
But since we have 2 artists, I mean, it wouldn't take really long. But I'm sure there's other things that we could possibly be doing. Like,
Well, with anything we do, there's other things we could have been doing
yeah,
instead.
exactly.
I'd have no objection to us recreating scene creation. The bit that the player said about not wanting the rewards is interesting,
Yeah.
because, you know, XP multiplier kit, kind of controversial in this game. You should have seen the response when we talked about roller gloves the first time. We got a huge amount of thanks for just not pulling them at all. So, not sure about those rewards, but if we came up with something else, or just did it as a way you can go spend time without getting XP, or without getting rewarded for doing it, and you actually wanted that, then we could.
I think it would probably be worth figuring out some sort of reward so we don't end up in a situation where we've made this great minigame and then no one goes to it because XP waste.
Except for Cuddles 98.
Except for Cuddles 98, yes.
The reward could be you meet Cuddles 98.
Phenomenon YT asks, can the rune pouch death mechanics be changed so it isn't completely lost on death and instead is reclaimable through the emblem trader or Purdue for a decent sum of GP? I quite like that idea because as it stands, the rune pouch is a very expensive item to get. It costs you about 1.3 mil. So people tend not to risk it, but if it was a slightly reduced GP cost after the first time you get it, maybe it would be worth using more.
Sorry, I was thinking about the essence pouches rather than the actual...
Yeah.
I expect if we remembered you'd had it, that could be done.
Yeah.
Maybe pros could upgrade herself to do pets and rune pouches.
Lovely. Leslie RS asks, wine to Wine of Zamorak spell, please. If it's too OP, just make it require a lot of runes.
Anyone got any thoughts about that one?
What was it? Wine to Zamorak?
Wine to Wine of Zamorak spell. I think
Wine
people used to
Wine of
hop
Zamorak.
worlds very quickly to telegrab them, and since there's a limit on how fast you can log, people
Not to mention
want
the
an
number of
alternative.
bots.
Yeah, so people would like an alternative. See what the chat thinks.
I think there'd be a heck of a lot of wine and Zamorak in the game if we did it.
Yeah, it's quite mixed.
I have a
Crocs,
bad
they say.
experience with Zamorak wines.
I agree.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I have a bad experience with Zamorak wines. I got lured
Oh.
when I was a
no.
kid.
Did someone tell you that you could get really rich if you
Yeah.
spammed TikTok?
And I followed them. Ronan.
You say right.
Shots fired.
Oh. I just got that.
This is her first stream and she's already taken digs. That's not acceptable. Okay, so we got a question from Cod Ash. Can we expect to see any level 80 plus weapons in OSRS this year?
I don't see that coming, to be honest. Like, we've got some more weapons coming out from the Slayer thing. If we were going to go to the level 80 tier, which is controversial in itself for Old School, it wouldn't, I think, just be from some random thing we'd popped out in the autumn, like the Slayer bosses.
Yeah.
It would want to come from something quite game-changing. And I'd be curious to know whether it would even pass a poll.
Yeah. I think Zaya's potentially going to be very game changing, so maybe it's worth holding on to that.
Certainly that would be a good place to put it.
I prefer mid-level items to be coming out. We haven't had any mid-level items.
Where do you think of mid-level to be?
50 to 60, or even 40. Just between 40 to 60.
I think it'd be interesting to give low-level pures a little something.
Or even 20 attack.
I suppose it's just a matter of getting it past a poll.
Pure stuff on a poll. Good luck.
Yeah. Air Alter asks... Oh, wait. Yeah, no. Air Alter asks, when is Slayer, Deadman going to be polled? Slayer is coming next Thursday, so June 18th.
The poll, that is not the
Poll.
update.
That is the poll, yes.
Unless you're a really fast programmer compared to me.
And Deadman mode is going to be probably late June, early July for the poll again. We've still got we've got the initial feedback on that first dev blog, and we're probably going to run through another couple of iterations of that blog. It's a very, very big update, so want to get that right before it goes onto a poll. So look early July, late June, somewhere around there. And question from Dutch Cookie. What is the dev team's view about offering experience lamps as a treasure trove reward? The experience lamps would be untradeable. The highest lamp would be around 50k XP, which you'd have a chance of receiving from completing an elite clue scroll.
My instant reaction is that's RS3.
Mod
what it
Cresta,
feels
ladies
like.
and gents.
I've lived it.
Yeah. Get away.
Well, that's that question answered.
No XP lamps. No.
Question from Clara. Currently we are capable of making altars in our houses to Bob the Cat, Gothic, Saudamin and Zamorak. Could we gain the capability of making one to Zaros?
Well, I guess you said in her interview that she'd like to work on construction updates.
Might be me. Yeah, it's one of my favourite skills. So yeah, I want to do loads of things with construction, so it's perfectly possible.
Excellent. Pluto365 asks, is there going to be a shift in attention to non-combat skills, whether it be via PDC or polls, so that they can be more varied, fill their gaps and rework dead content within them to give them renewed life or niche use?
That didn't come on Twitter, did it?
No, that came on Reddit, I believe.
Sorry, you lost me halfway through. Can you say it again, please?
Are we going to pay more attention to non-combat skills in future updates?
We probably should, you know. We've done a lot of combat updates, partly because, you know, we do these priority polls and find that people wanted the solo boss and people wanted this kind of this many combat-y type things. But I would like to cater more to the things we've been neglecting lately, and given we've got someone who apparently likes working on construction code.
And I love skilling. I'm not really a combat person. There are people in the office who have laughed at me trying to do combat. Like really laughed at me. So yeah, absolutely skills all the way for me.
Excellent, that's good to hear. Kiara asks, Ash will like this one. Maple log sprite revert, please. Now the GE is here.
Next poll, promised. And I'm trusting you'll vote yes to it, yeah?
Yeah.
Rate is Langan 2 asks, I have no idea. Why don't you want to add the option to be able to open looting bags in the bank? I don't remember.
You mean to get the stuff out of it in the bank without having to open the bank screen?
I think they mean so you can treat it as a standard inventory, like take stuff back out into your inventory without going to the bank booth. I think it's for Ultimate Iron Men in particular that you might be asking, so
cool.
that they can essentially use it as an extension to their inventory.
I'm sure they'd love that.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're not always that generous with giving them handy extra inventory slots.
Yeah.
Assuming we wanted to do it, we could. I think the only reason we didn't do it before is that quite simply it's a lot more interface work that we didn't feel we had to do at the time and therefore didn't do, because we could just let you empty it into your bank. That was straightforward from a conceptual point of view to understand what's going on, and quite easy to program as well. But yeah, if we actually set out to do that, we could do it. The question would be whether people want it. I'm seeing a lot of no here. The odd yes, but quite a few no.
I think generally when it comes to things that benefit Iron Men, people don't necessarily want to make it too easy.
Well, I Am Lasus is suggesting ultimate iron babies. I don't know whether that's a benefit or a drawback or what.
But if we go by the chat, we're just putting Crocs in the game.
They're in the desert, you know, snare task.
Okay, so
But not that colour.
moving on. Scope the Gecko asks.
Scope the Gecko.
What's his name?
You guys just come up with these names to amuse me, don't you?
I didn't check any of the names before. I'd say if I read one out, that's distinctly absurd. I apologise. Can we get untradeable high-level extreme and super potions just like we have in RuneScape 3? Maybe even overloads for balancing issues. Make them not work in the wilderness.
That was what they did before, I think, wasn't it?
They didn't work in the wilderness on RS3. At least not pre-OC.
I always felt a bit funny about a potion that was really, really amazing, so much so that you couldn't use it in PvP. I know we've gone there before with the Trident, but it doesn't mean I like going there.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
That's more nose than Pinocchio, I think. Is what
A similar question that did come up as well. I don't think I wrote it down. Super magic and range potions. What do we think about them? So not the same tier as extreme or overloads, but a step up from the standard magic and range potions that we've got now.
Could we make the magic essence potion be that?
I suppose we could.
Because I don't know what it's for. I really don't.
Perfectly possible, I suppose. A guy with a bunch of I's and L's in his name asks, will we need to create a whole new account to play Deadman mode with a fresh character at launch, or will the Deadman servers have separate characters?
I think this might be one for you, actually.
Yeah, Deadman mode will be brand new account, completely separate from your standard account, and the Deadman worlds will be separate. Standard players will not be able to access them, and Deadman works, will not be able to access the standard RuneScape worlds. So they will be completely sectioned off.
There's a suggestion there from Smook YOLO about the previous question about having super magic potions that boost your stats but don't let you access higher level spells, just do more damage to the spells you've got, or do, not that many spells have that, but give you more accuracy with the spells you've got. We could probably do that. It would be tricky, but we could probably find a way.
Yeah, definitely worth looking into.
Because the ability to access extra spells is pretty darn powerful. Being able to do a bit more, well, DPS by having more accuracy to the spells you've got might be more survivable.
Yeah, absolutely. Joey1993 asks, do you ever think we will get in-game voice chat?
Do we want that?
I'd want that. That sounds pretty cool.
It would be cool. The thing is, we'd never be able to police it. Like at the moment, if somebody goes around saying seriously unacceptable things, you can click report abuse, send a note to the support team, and they can see it. With voice chat, they would not be able to do a darn thing. People would just say anything.
Yeah, that's a lot of
no.
Lots of no's.
Well, that's a relief, because also that would be a huge amount of work for somebody.
Yeah.
Dingwill asks, will OSRS ever ditch Java for HTML5 or NXT?
I wish. Let's tell him rewrite the entire client not in Java. See how he queues that one up with all the other work.
So, no. Rambo the 3 asks, can you make it so the new Abyssal Demon boss doesn't drop Abyssal Whips or heads? And I think the answer to that is probably no. It drops them infrequently as it stands. It's going to be much harder to kill the Abyssal Demon boss. They're not going to be common drops. And you will be killing them on an Abyssal Demon task. So it's not going to drastically increase. You'd probably have a better chance of going to Abyssal Demons and killing them for your task.
Certainly the rate you can kill them would be much greater than the rate you can kill this thing.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not going to be as common from the Abyssal Demon boss, so I wouldn't worry about them having an impact on the price. They're just there, because it sort of makes sense. We have a question from Bruno O. Can you remove the attack requirement on the Staff of the Dead? It feels fairly odd to have a magic weapon within melee requirement.
Hasn't it got fairly good melee stats?
I think it's better than the Dragon Scimitar.
Yeah, it's really good.
So, no.
There we go. V-Climax asks, will we ever be able to move/rotate our player-owned houses without having to remove the whole room or the furniture inside?
Who likes construction?
Construction dev.
That's a much bigger job, but yeah, it could be done.
You
It's a
think?
nice little interface, but yeah.
I think we would need one of those, yeah. Because at the moment, you go to a hotspot to build a menagerie, and if you've already got one, it will know that you've already got one and off to move your menagerie to here.
Because it only has to find the one thing.
That's right. With like bedrooms or parlours or staircases, it'd be a right mess because it wouldn't know whether you want to build a new one or whether you want to move the one over there or the one over there or the one over there. So it would be quite a pain to try and do. But with an interface, like you say, I think that might make it possible.
Doesn't make it easy.
We've always said that testing construction updates would be really, really hard for John. It wouldn't necessarily be hard for John anymore.
Question from Lord Zantino. What content can we vote for in the next priority poll, and when can we expect to see it? The next priority poll will be coming in the next few weeks. I think we'll probably kick it off next week and get some idea of what's going to be going into it, and let you guys know shortly.
Cool, because I don't know.
Salty Tears asks, can something be done about players disappearing from the game/map when more than a certain amount of players are in a confined space?
There's probably going to be a limit somewhere to how many it can show. You know, I mean, you get 2,000 people in theory, and if it tries to show all that, your frame rate is going to be really not good. So there probably does have to be a limit, unfortunately.
Ben Yahweh asks, can something be done about... Oh,
Probably not.
I was going to ask the same question. That's rubbish. Will Cerberus have an instanced room? No. The way that Cerberus and the Abyssal Demon boss are going to be working, rather than having instances, we're going to have like a central chamber, and then you're going to be able to access multiple boss rooms that are essentially identical, or very similar. The boss is going to be in each of them. That prevents the issues that come along with instances, where if you die in there, you can't ever get your items back. So there'll be plenty of room for people to kill the bosses. That's not something to worry about.
I do remember we released the Cave Kraken boss with an instance where if you lose your stuff in there, you ain't never getting it back. Got a bit of criticism for that, but frankly, you're not meant to die killing that thing very often anyway. Could have done it differently, but we had fairly strong reasons for not wanting to do so. But people have also pointed out that if the more copies of a boss there are, like if there's infinite copies of a boss, one for each player, then the items come into the game fast.
Yeah. Kappa 3000 asks, Alfred, do you have anything to show since you've been back?
I do have some stuff to show.
Well, it's just a good time to seg into what you've got to show.
Yeah. So, this is really squeaky. I've been working on the Hellhound layer. So you'll be seeing some screenshots now of some of the stuff I've been blocking out. It's not finished yet. It's still got a couple of weeks. So this is that's the Hellhound boss. Obviously, you'll see it's when you walk into the room, there are ribs kind of overpowering you when you walk past them to kill the boss. These walls are going to change. They're going to have skeletons on them, and they're meant to be like bone walls. So people have been trying to climb on those walls and trying to get out of the layer. I'm going to go to the next picture. Yeah, those are the walls. They're going to change. This is that's meant to be like a soul devourer, because behind the boss is meant to be a river of souls. But I'm not sure if you're going to be allowed to walk onto the river of souls, are you?
I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not sure. But behind that is going to be like a big river of souls. And,
Ew.
I've kind of concepted up something like this. It's like some walls with like these kind of soulless faces shouting out at you. Yeah, I haven't got much done on that at the moment, but it's coming along nicely.
That's going to be creepy.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit next to you anymore.
What have we got? Yep. Let's see. Question from Phenomenon YT. Any update on using Old School bonds to change your name? Talked about it before, but haven't heard anything since.
Yeah. Now, since there's work for that needs to be done by the web team to control the actual names module, and as always, some engine work, we're hesitant to promise a date for anything like that because some of the stuff is outside of our team's control altogether. But yeah, we're aware you'd like it, and I think we'll indeed put it on the next poll. Yeah.
Yep, that'll be on the next poll as well. Definitely.
Along with the ability to spend bonds to come to RuneFest, right?
Well, that depends if RuneFest is happening, Ash.
Oh, there's all those tweets from that account. What could it possibly be tweeting about?
Yeah, that'll be on the poll as well.
Well, it says something is happening, so maybe you can spend bonds on it.
Something is happening soon.
But not to me.
So vague. What could it possibly be? Yeah. Jacobo95RS asks, is it possible to make it so we have placeholders / multiple of the achievement diary gear?
If we took out half the item checks and rewrote the dialogue for the masters to let you have a second one when you've already got one, then yeah. And also Purdue should have that stuff.
Yeah, that was going to be on the next poll, I believe, wasn't it?
Lovely. Purdue will have that stuff, assuming you guys vote yes for it. You will, won't you?
Torwin asks, could we have the ability to press escape to close interfaces, like the bank, for example?
Got something of that on the next poll, haven't we?
I think we do, yeah. Lots on the next poll.
It's great having more than one developer.
Yeah, the next poll is a big one. It's going to be good. JJ Aussie asks, can vengeance/recall be changed so that it hits the NPC that dealt the damage, please? It's mostly noticeable at the Cowfight Queen/God Wars dungeon/Zora.
Uncertain, worth a try. Definitely worth a try.
Yep. Appy asks, can the blowpipe attack style stay on rapid when you switch from the trident to the blowpipe?
We were talking about this
We were?
yesterday, about the fact that we need another attack style for the trident to make it so that it doesn't mess everything up when you're switching. But we couldn't think of...
Yeah. See, the way those attack styles work, when you switch to a weapon that, has only 2 styles, and you were in the middle style, it can either put you on the defensive trident or the non-defensive trident, and obviously it puts you on the non-defensive trident, you don't get defense XP. But since that's the accurate stance, and when you switch away from the trident again, you're still on accurate, even though you prefer rapid. Now, we could either try to remember that you were on rapid before you switched to a trident, and then notice you switched away from the trident and try to put you back on rapid. But with the best will in the world, I don't think I could program that. Not into our combat equipping scripts. They're just not good for that. Really not good for that. So what I suggested a while back on a live stream as a hacky solution was to give the trident a 3rd attack style. So you'd got accurate trident style 1, accurate trident style 2, and defensive trident. That way when you're in rapid, you switch to the trident, you go to the 2nd accurate style on the 1st one, and you switch away from it again, you're still in rapid. Trouble is, then we'd have a trident with 2 completely identical styles, which might be considered really stupid. But it would do what you'd like it to do. Or we could try and make the styles different from each other, and have one of them as the more accurate trident and the other as the more damaging trident. The reason I don't want to do that is that if we made the trident more damaging, then that would be too damaging. And if we made it more accurate, it would still be a bit too much for DPS. So we kind of got stuck on that one. And we're open to ideas, sorry.
Yeah, it's finding the good balance to get that 3rd one in.
Yeah. I personally thought we'd taken the trident about as far as it could go in terms of DPS, and then we added that fang to it.
Sweet Bruh asks, is there any update on having the ability to have more... I'm going to start again. Is there any update on having the ability to have one of each clue scroll tier?
I've done the dev on that, so it should be in next week's update.
Lovely.
That was a nice easy one.
One for your team now.
Yes.
Raven Ridge asks, can we get a buff for javelins? There's been many ideas, i.e. a ballista that functions like a hand cannon or a dwarf cannon, adding a new mechanic to them, like more damage but less accuracy the further away you are, or simply improving their stats.
I like the idea of having it depend on how far away the target is.
That is nice, isn't it?
We haven't got anything like that. Ian actually was going to do something like that with Chin Chompers all that time ago, but I'm not quite sure whether that was ruled out back in the engine of 2006, but we could totally do it now.
I think that'd be interesting. I like things that throw another thing to think about into combat. Like it works nicely.
No pun intended. Throw.
That's lost.
Sorry.
That's lost.
You do the bad joke.
I do the
tweets,
bad
right?
jokes, yes. Sorry.
Tristan asks, thoughts on resizable login screen? Looks odd when hopping as it shrinks down and back up.
We could make the welcome screen bigger without needing to trouble the engine team with yet more stuff. Couldn't they have to do the login screen, and there's definitely more pressing things we need from them than that, but I could probably expand the welcome screen. I just didn't get around to it before and didn't have a very pressing need to do so, because I didn't have anything to do with the rest of the space, to be honest.
Yeah. That's
I
right.
could stick it right in the centre of the screen, I guess, or enlarge some stuff, but yeah, I just don't have anything to do with it, really. You guys can maybe design a something to fill the rest of the space.
Yeah.
Or we could have a dancing wise old man on the side if the screen's big enough.
One on each side.
I'd vote yes.
Crystal Cat asks, would it be possible to scale down how transparent we'd like the chat to be? I love the transparent mode, but having the ability to scale your opacity would be amazing. And they also ask about chat colours and being able to change them and customise them.
Yeah, that just got a lot harder now. We've got 2 different backgrounds the chat might have. I expect we could do the chat colour thing, although the reason it's tricky is that there's a lot of text in the game that's sent, with a colour built into it. We can't override that very easily.
Yeah.
If we maybe weeded them all out though, and used different types of chat type, and had the player control what colour those were,
Maybe.
that might be possible.
Maybe. It's scaring me now, but yeah.
Well, it's never good when I try and do tech design kind of
On the fly.
in front of however many of you lot are watching on a sofa with a big mug.
So it's a maybe.
Yeah.
It's an Ash is volunteering.
Yes, and then I can delegate.
To Maz, yeah? No.
Yes. Come on for Maz.
Jay Bizzle asks...
She's not smiling.
Jay Bizzle asks, will the Tier 3 boots coming with the Slate update look like Ragefire's Steadfast Glaven boots, or will they have their own looks?
I think that's something for Ghost, who's not here.
Yeah.
But I think he tweeted out a picture. I'm not sure if those were actually the original pictures of the boots or a updated version with his own design. But I'm sure if you check out his Twitter, you'll be able to see what he's posted
There you go.
about those boots.
Dragex_Ghost on Twitter if you want to see what Alfred's talking about.
I'm guessing they're designed though.
Yeah. Wicked Hairspray asks, what are your thoughts on adding rare versions of monsters that have a chance of dropping better loot than the normal versions?
I have a nasty feeling that people just hop from world to world looking for them.
Yeah.
Wasn't there something like that in the Cyclops room in RS3?
They're doing a lot of work on this kind of thing at the moment.
Mm.
Adding extra things like that.
Yeah, okay.
Can the player see that picture you're showing us?
No.
No,
Okay. We're being shown a picture of some boots.
Oh, this is what it says.
Yeah.
It says they're going to be based around it.
Yeah.
Ah.
They're gonna, the boots will be based around the original ones and made out of a gem-like rock.
Oh, he does like that. That's why we've got tanzanite as a material from Zora, because we went
He
looking
likes
at
his-
interesting crystals.
He likes his gems.
Yeah.
And you like your gems?
Well, who don't like the bling?
There's going to be a Photoshop on Reddit later.
I'm relying on it.
Rusby asks, will we ever have the ability to choose which items we keep on death?
Whew. I did that update in about 2011 or 2010 or something like that. Or at some point in the distant past. I can remember how I did it, and I can do it again, but I don't remember it being that popular when I did it.
Yeah, I think the chat will have something to say about
It was
that.
quite a radical shift, and it's not something I consider to have been my favourite recollection of an update. I mean, heck, it was part of a big revamp of death. It was the time they also changed death drop to use GE values rather than out prices, which I think was a good move. But they asked me to bundle that in with it, and yeah, I did it, but I'm not in a massive rush to do it again.
Alkbutt asks, can Mystic/Splitbar... you got to stop giggling at every name.
No,
Come
we
on.
don't. No, we don't.
Can Mystic/Splitbark and Enchanted Robes be added as sets to the Grand Exchange?
Yes, if somebody makes us a nice model for the box.
Yeah, that'd be easy to do.
There you go. Lohak asks, can cannons receive a smoking effect when they're about to decay?
Ooh, yes.
That's quite nice.
We could do that if you stick a smoky thingy on the cannon model.
Yeah. Quick animation.
Very nice.
Yeah, bear in mind it's got an animation at the moment because that's
Oh,
how it rotates, but
Okay,
we can probably do something with it.
FIFA asks, can we see the Duelist's cap alongside the Wildstalker helmet polled?
Fancy drawing one?
Yeah.
He's going to be busy.
Those
If
are
you keep saying yes to all this stuff.
James asks, how long until we see the extra Grand Exchange slots added?
You were telling me that I think that you'd heard from one of the other team about that.
Yeah, so from what I gather, the work that we're relying on has been done. So
Great. Because I had a start on my end of it, and that's the interface bit of it. And I think that's another thing that Ian's going to have to do some bridging in between my end and the other end. He's going to be busy, that boy.
Poultry asks, if we saw a new spell / a new spell book added to the game, what are your thoughts on a prayer that increases the rate at which you regain run energy?
That's pretty cool.
We do have control over that in the engine these days. Mod Philip gave us access to edit that in the content side last year, which is how I think we did some of the stuff like stamina potions.
Yeah.
So we could do this. I'm seeing, however, a lot of no
there's a lot of no's.
Yeah.
and lol and don't eat your nails.
And crops.
Who's eating the nails?
Yeah, it's me. Confession.
No, it's maths.
You eat everything on live streams, you do. Scorpions, onions, now yourself.
Nice, next.
Holbrion asks, can we get a Barrows book that can track which loots we've received from which Barrows brothers?
Probably, although he's saying like it just says what Barrows items are already in your bank, or
I think it means which ones if you've ever received it, it would be marked off in the book.
It's like a
maybe.
checklist.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least that's how I would interpret that.
Well, we certainly could. I'm not sure what we do with it though.
Yeah.
And it says book. Like I'm not sure I'd want one of those in my bank where if I used a bank slot to keep it, I could occasionally pull it out and see that I have had Darok's big thing axe at some point or not. But we could.
Yeah. Potterson asks, what are your thoughts on untradables breaking on death? The player would pay to fix, and that fee would go to the PKer. At the moment, Voiders have serious gear advantage with little to no risk, and I believe he is saying that this should only happen in the wilderness and PvP, not at bosses and whatnot.
I think he asked me on Twitter as well. I said we could certainly do it, and it was a promising solution to the thing about Void, although how it would go through a poll, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
It's getting a lot of yeses.
That's promising.
It does seem to get a lot of yeses every time we ask it on stream or anywhere else, and then in the poll that we ran a while back, the game integrity poll,
Yeah.
something like 56% of people felt that untradables weren't an issue. So I think it's based on the response from the chat, maybe it's worth looking at.
I wouldn't mind doing it,
Yeah.
and I would like to address that situation.
Definitely. Infinite God asks, could the Abyssal Sire's bludgeon be made one-handed and have 50 plus defense requirement? That would help the Sour Sword retain its value.
Well, it could.
It's Mod Ghost's thing, but
Has he
I don't
modeled
think
it to
he's-
be two-handed yet?
I don't think he's concepted it even.
Well, in that case, it's not too late to change.
Yeah.
As it stands in the dev blog, it is two-handed. I know that John is fairly keen on keeping it two-handed. Otherwise, it causes a few balancing issues across the game. And the general response when we suggested a defense requirement was quite a bad one.
Yes, I remember that much.
Yeah. So I wouldn't expect to see that change being made.
It's funny, half the community seems to hate pures, the other half don't want defence requirements.
Yeah.
I love consensus.
Titan Babe asks, thoughts on adding a staking feature into the Berthorpe game room, giving players the ability to stake / make money and items against other players in games such as RuneLink or drafts.
That could be done, although I've got to say there's a lot more pressing things I think I'd rather be doing.
Yep, I think that's
Sorry.
fair. Fem asks, can magic pots receive a buff? Currently, they give an abysmal... Oh, this is the same question that we mentioned earlier, in fact. So let's get back and see the answer to that.
I can't.
It was quite positive, actually.
Cool.
Rock Lobster asks, can you confirm if the Kandarin Diary does or does not give a bonus to the Catterby Herb patch?
I checked, it doesn't. That seems to be one of the various rewards that didn't quite make its way from being promised and polled and just then not developed. There's a few like that. We're gradually weeding them out, and I need to do something about the marks of grace in Ardoin as well.
Lovely. Aragon asks, will the upcoming Slayer bosses be pure friendly, meaning they will require more than just a Slayer level requirement to kill? And I don't think either of them would require anything more than a Slayer requirement. So you should be good to go on a pure. Whether or not you'll survive is another question, but
probably won't survive.
Job for Wooks then.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. Holtier asks, does resizable mode mean one step closer to the possibility of something like the Orb of Oculus?
Probably not connected, to be honest. The camera system hasn't changed at all, but one benefit is that Ian is now extremely familiar with the 3D rendering code of the game, and is probably in a much better position to start tying stuff into it. And I would like an Orb of Oculus. Though it's worth mentioning that in places like, Clan Wars, where you've got a spectator feature, even if we let you decouple the camera and fly it around separately from where your physical body is in the game, it wouldn't show you players more than 15 tiles from you, because the engine teams looked into that for us long before we had Ian, and they've decided that, to be honest, trying to load players or map not based on where you're standing is just probably too big a change to be made to the engine many years after it was designed to not be like that. So an Orb of Oculus would be limited, but it's not unfeasible to get the camera control, and it would go nicely with the feature you were describing for a hotkey that hides all the interfaces.
Yeah. OrbRS asks, why can't players have multiple stacks of max cash?
When the game engine was programmed to assume one stack of each item, and it would get extremely confused if there was more than one stack of each item, as you might have experienced with the occasional bug we get where you get more than one stack of a stackable item. So it's just not written to support that. Could in theory be rewritten to support that, but it's going to take a bit of doing. And if the item in question is cash, there's things we can give you that would get away from the problem by letting you store cash in the form of something that isn't coins. A bit like they do with spirit shards in the game.
What are we going to be putting? That was on next week's poll, wasn't it?
I think it was,
yeah.
yes.
I think we're going to have an item that you can buy, you can always exchange back for your GP in the exact same amount. So it's essentially just another currency, and it's going to cost you 1 billion GP to buy one. So, not going to hit too many max cash stacks very soon with them.
I think we didn't want to let people stake with it though, because if you could start wandering around the stack of these things in the duel arena, then it might make an interesting live stream for you, but that's pushing a bit too far.
So yeah, they will be untradeable. They will purely be to store your max cash stacks in. If the two of you watching that have ever hit max cash have trouble with that.
Long time ago, I actually came up with some code that could let us, store coins in like a coin repository, and it could remember a number greater than 2 billion, because it would just remember the coins in thousands or in millions or whatever. In fact, Nightmare Zone's coffer has that. It stores the coins as a number of thousands, which means that if I'd given it capacity to take 2 billion, it would take 2 trillion coins. Now, the tester at the time said that he was just too terrified of bugs to let me launch a thing like that, so he asked me to cap it a lot lower, and I did. But if I hadn't done, then you'd have a coin repository that handled 2 trillion coins, which keep you busy for another week or two at least.
Oh dear. Caleb asks, could Old School get a top boss killer's high scores?
If the web team gets around to doing the front end of the high scores that we asked for that time ago. Just at the moment though, they're focusing on doing the Grand Exchange web pages for us, and I don't want to ask for anything that's going to delay that, because I want those.
Tezza?
By the way, we did have a request from the stream for gilded boots. Can't think where they got the idea from.
We'd have gilded boots. Yeah. There you
Well,
go.
they want your gilded boots.
That sucks to be them.
These are exclusive.
Tezza asks, can we please get the ability to keep the bedsheet from Ghost Ahoy? I've seen this come up a lot recently, in fact.
I do remember when that quest was written and why it wasn't allowed. See, if you're doing a skill activity, then you animate. If you're wearing the bedsheet, you shouldn't animate. And while there's not very many activities you can do inside port, the thing begins with P, then if you could go outside it, you'd start interacting with all the other content in the game. We'd have to put checks in all of it to see if you are wearing a bedsheet when you do it and adjust the animations accordingly. And to be honest, that's not feasible. So it's a bit like why you can only be a monkey in certain places. We just weren't able to cope with the possibilities of what you might do if you could be in these forms elsewhere.
It was a genuine concern from the players as well that it would be a bit too spooky.
Well, if you could wander around the wilderness in whatever armour you'd got, but all people could see was a bedsheet, then when you walk up to them and suddenly, well, yeah, you suddenly reveal, actually, I'm wearing some really top-end armour and I'm going to knock your block off. So it would be quite interesting in that situation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Juvie asks, with updates like the Jad Pet coming soon, when can we expect to see something like the Kiln Cape?
What kiln?
That's a very good question. I know that Gareth did concept sort of an upgraded fire cape a while back. I think that was one of the first things that he did on the team.
Yes, unfortunately, everybody who saw it on Twitter thought he was planning to change the existing fire cape. He was, of course, talking about a new upgraded version from some other content, but most of the feedback was don't change our fire cape, which he wasn't going to anyway, because he's not mad in that way. So we haven't really gone there since. Had some requests from players last RuneFest though. There was a fairly simple one involving an upgraded kind of fire cave with yet more waves of even nastier monsters coming at you, and a very simple one involving give away 50 fire capes and get one of these instead. If we came up with something people actually liked, we could totally go there.
Yeah, excellent. Metallic Mage asks, will Zaya have its own wilderness area?
Personally, I'm opposed. I don't know what you guys think.
I
Well,
think
the wilderness is the wilderness, surely.
Yeah.
And the wilderness is big and the PvP community is not infinite. So having a separate bit of wilderness would stretch them somewhat.
We could instead have an area we could just wear a bed sheet and just run around.
Yes, we have bedsheet land.
I'm sure that relates somehow. it could happen. Ed Hicks asks, can the number of charges left in a binding necklace be put in its name like the teleport jewellery?
No. The teleport jewellery has different items for each charge state. The binding necklace does not. It just has one version of the item and a variable set on you that remembers how many states you got. So it can't change the item name based on that, I'm afraid.
I did. Lolling So Hard says, can the menagerie habitats extend all of the way to the walls in your player-owned house?
You made those, actually.
yeah, I did.
Could they, do you think? Or was there stuff in the way?
I have no idea. I can't remember back.
It was adapted from the RS3 graphics.
Yeah, it was. Mr. Rico.
Which might mean that it was developed on the assumption there'd be textures. It's always put me in mind slightly of my carpet I've got at home. But I suppose you could maybe make them a bit wider at these sides.
I could easily change them if there's a problem with them.
And of course, whatever we do with construction, John doesn't have to test it anymore, does he?
It's my job.
Oh, sorry, this one.
Hello.
Yes.
Of course.
Alfie's girlfriend has just arrived back, I think.
This isn't
A
my
real
house.
job.
He's working.
Go on, sit. I'll put this up.
Just go
You
and
can
sit.
do that,
Oh,
yeah.
for God's sake. No way.
It's a real small house, is it? Oh my God.
We back?
Those stairs are loud.
Those are-
Avgars has a suggestion for us, picked out by Chris, who is on holiday. And it is house burglaries. And the description that's written there is, throughout RuneScape there are numerous houses which are inhabited by NPCs that really serve no purpose. This suggestion is to allow people to burglarise them as an addition to the thieving skill. There's a ton more detail on this on a suggestion thread on Reddit. What are your thoughts on the general idea?
When it came to house burglaries, I just suddenly remembered we're in someone's house at the moment. No? Okay.
It's an
Yeah.
idea.
It is an idea. That is undeniable.
I've seen a lot of Yes on the stream.
Yeah.
And Clash of Clans.
It's an interesting idea. Maybe. Maybe I'll have to have a look at that thread and see.
Picking locks on furniture that you can then get stuff out of.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Could work.
I think it could definitely work.
Yeah.
I think maybe I'd look into that thread and get a bit more detail on what they are proposing.
It'd be nice to do something with thieving that's not just clicking on the same NPC over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Just the
definitely.
same cupboard over and over again.
Oh, I think we'd make it a little more interesting than that.
Crafter asks, could the Zamorak Godsword special attack have a chance of inflicting Krell's rage attack, hitting through prayer?
Ooh.
That'd be brutal.
Yeah. I think the answer is it could. It probably won't.
Fair. Cameron asks, can more ideal training spots be added to Pures? So places like rock crabs aren't so competitive and cramped.
Ain't hard to map down more monsters.
No.
And have you ever made any? You made some terrain for RuneScape. You
I
did the
have,
North
yeah.
Leech Quell terrain for Clan Wars.
Yeah.
And in fact, you're doing an entire lair now.
Yeah. I could easily map down something.
Oh, people are saying no.
No.
Well, that's a relief. Less work.
Apparently they want competition at rock crabs, eh?
Okay.
I have no idea how to say this name.
This should be fun.
Mathigast? I'm going with that. Could we see a new Slayer monster that scales in difficulty and drops depending on your Slayer level?
It's possible.
That'll be interesting, given that your Slayer level may not match your combat level.
It's very true. I'm a little interested to see what the chat has to say about that. Right now they're spamming DC.
Oh dear.
Uh,
There's don't seem to be
No.
very relevant.
no.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Mike G asks, I know it's been mentioned before, but what are your thoughts on allowing players to drink prayer pots or telly while getting de-speared?
It's something that if I had been implementing the D-Spear back in 2004, I would have allowed. The developer back then did not. Players seem to have become accustomed to it to the point that when we polled a change to D-Spear, it didn't pass. I don't think he even got that close.
Yeah. That was one that surprised me when it didn't pass. I was definitely expecting that to.
It's mostly no's again at the moment.
Yeah. Well, that's why we
I
have the
guess not
polls.
then.
I drink too much. Really? Asks.
Ways of making Roland say
That wasn't just a statement. That was his name.
He's confessing.
Can you change the world switcher so that when the scroll stays in the same position after hopping worlds? Probably it brings you back to the top.
Yeah, good news there is the engine feature that I'd like from Ian before we do zoom control is the ability to save these things, cache it as part of your game's cache on your computer, and just to remember the settings so that when you change world or log out, your zoom doesn't reset, or your draggable chat box doesn't reset, and we could do the same thing with scroll bars, and would do the same thing with that particular scroll bar definitely. So if we get that engine feature, which I hope we will soon, we'll be able to sort that for you.
Excellent. And it looks like we're at 6 o'clock, so that is just about it. So thank you guys for joining us. We'll be at the same time next week. Any final words?
Follow us on Twitter.
And
Yes.
big
Yeah.
thanks to Alfred for hosting this stream.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Oh, we didn't mention that, did we, at all?
Yes,
No.
we're in Alfred's house. That's,
Yeah, you just mentioned and
At
his
the end of the
girlfriend's
stream.
appearing, but
Yeah.
not where we are.
yeah, that's why. Yeah, she doesn't do that in the office.
Yeah, so
Hopefully not.
Thanks for the warm welcome to my new colleagues.
yeah, and if you want to follow everyone on Twitter, on the end there, @JagXDay, just next to her, @JagXKrista.
Warning, there's bad jokes every day.
They're good.
They're really bad. They're really...
I like
Into
them.
Matt's jokes. Seriously.
@JagXAsh, at JagXAlfred, at JagXRonan, and over there off screen at JagXJames, at JagX_James, because he failed at getting a Twitter name.
Somebody should have totally taken the name mod underscore when they created their mod account.
They definitely should have. But yeah, that's about it. So thank you guys for watching, and make sure you tune in next week. Goodbye.
Bye.